All right, y'all. Welcome to another episode of Beer Brain. I'm your host, Mike. Thank you for joining me on another, notes and summary of extract brewing. So let's begin. So extract brewing is just another method of brewing, and one of the two main methods, which the other one is all grain brewing, which I'll cover after this video. And what extract brewing is basically still got to make wort, and how you make the wort, which it's just sugar water for the yeast to eat, and you season with hops and stuff, is you make it out of malt extract, which comes right here, which comes in either a can or bag or liquid or dry powder, which it's still derived from grains used in all grain brewing. So like barley, crystal malts, chocolate malts, yada yada yada. Everything that's available to us as brewers is already processed, and the sugar is extracted and in this convenient form that we can use when brewing extract style. So the four ingredients still remain the same. You need a source of sugar, which is the malt extract, the water as the base, and hops and yeast. So that is always a constant. So during the process, it doesn't necessarily mean that if you're extract brewing, that you don't have a mash. You can actually, what I did as my first brew was an IPA based on the Green Flash IPA recipe. I ended up using specialty malts to brew that. And that is like this picture right here, which it's a sack filled with grains that you typically use for all grain brewing, but it's like you're having like a small amount of grains to that you as a brewer can control, mix and match, and add like things here and there that allow you to add more creativity to the recipe. So with the specialty grains, it's just like a mini mash that you do at the beginning of before you boil. And basically it's just a mash that's just like a smaller scale. And what you could do with that is you can add oats, which will add body to to your beer. You can add like colors, which will like roasted grains, which will add like darker colors or like amber colors. So you can adjust the color with that. You can adjust like the flavors of maltiness that come from the grains that you choose to add into that sack. So basically, it's going to be around 30 minutes to an hour. It could be a full mash for a small grain bag, but typically it's about like 30 minutes max, or around there. Still at the mashing temperatures around 148 to 154. You're not doing a full mash, which can range. It can start as low as like 120 Fahrenheit. So, but basically you have like a mini mash here. So, yeah, it's part of extract brewing. So moving on, it's all pretty much gonna seem the same, which it is the same. Basically, what I'm doing here is rinsing the grains. This is an all grain situation going on, but the concept is still the same. You're going to be rinsing this bag to get all of the sugars out of there and all of the good stuff that you want to extract from those grains with the hot water or the sparge water in order to do that. So you just pretty much pull the bag up, you're like pouring your water over the bag to get all the sugars. Yeah, and then you proceed as normal. It's gonna be a boil, and you pretty much start your timer once your wort reaches like a steady rolling boil. You're gonna season with hops or whatever else like you want to add in, and basically that's the brew day right there. Mainly, it's just watching the boil, making sure you stay organized, have your hops ready, sanitized and everything. But I mean, like during the boil, everything gets heated up so that it's going to be sanitary. But it helps to keep all of your stuff in your workspace clean. and organized. And definitely have a brew day beer, which I have in my hand right here. Very essential, makes the brew days go by a lot smoother. And once boil is done, yep, we're moving on to the next part is the cooling and the pitch of the yeast. That picture is like a picture of this glass right here. I didn't have a picture of my setup, but basically I started with just dunking my boil kettle into an ice bath, which is like, you know, it's just a container full of ice, just like my glass here. That'll do the trick. In how to brew, they mentioned like a snow bank, if you have that available, which is very, you know, it's free and it's like, you know, it's very cold. It'll work really well. I ended up going from like ice baths to copper coil to a steel coil, which I bought from my local homebrew shop and South Bay Brewing Supply. And from there, I moved on to a chiller plate, which I was able to get from a buddy of mine, which is really cool. Like it's what I use today. It's like the best device for cooling for me at this point, and it's like super fast compared to the where I came from, and it's great. Like as long as you keep your chiller plates clean, clear of any debris. You know, make sure you give that a good rinse after you're done using it. After every brew day, you got to make sure you maintain your equipment, and it's gonna give back to you, you know, as much as you give it care. So yeah, so extract brewing is just pretty much following the same lines as regular brewing here. We pitch the yeast, and the next step is to transfer from your boil kettle. Actually, no. Once it's cool, you transfer into the fermentation vessel, which it could be a plastic bucket or it could be your SS brew bucket or whatever you have, carboy, and then you pitch the yeast. I had these slides a little like mixed up. So yeah, this is basically me transferring from the boil kettle to the fermentation bucket. And I have a little strainer there to catch any remaining hops that I wasn't able to whirlpool, or you know, that got away and it's getting through to the fermentation bucket. But you know, it's good to keep a little bit of a mesh filter at certain points. You know, it helps keep things clear. And yeah, this picture on the right is it in the fermentation chamber. And it's going. I think this is a day after I put it in there, and the bubbles here are already formed, and it's going. So good to go. You know, after that, of course, you can choose whether to bottle or to keg. Here's an example of bottles that some beer that I bottled this year, and some beer that I kegged this year. So yeah, that's basically it. And then you enjoy your beer. Now we're at the end of this presentation. Thanks for joining me for this short spiel on extract brewing, and have fun brewing and keep on brewing. Don't let this, you know, anything stop you from, like, you know, pursuing the pursuit of beer. So cool. Thanks, guys.